Hi, my name is Edele, and I just want to share my testimony with you guys about how I became a Christian and how I found a calling to serve God. My people were being persecuted because of our faith and because of who we were. And we ran away from mass genocide so that we can have another chance at life. I was born in a refugee camp in a bamboo hospital that didn't have all the equipment and things that we needed to be able to stay healthy. But by God's grace, although my mother almost passed away when I was born, both of us were able to survive. Growing up, I knew that something was wrong around me when I saw people missing limbs and people not being able to see. But I knew that God had a plan for me. Living in the refugee camp, I was poor. Obviously, I didn't have anything. And it'd be a miracle when I'd had an egg or two to eat because they were scarce and we'd get rations every single week. And so living life there, I was happy to even be able to afford a shoe or some clothes or anything like that. So bare necessities were just some things that we didn't take for granted. My family was Baptist, but there was a man named Arthur who came into the village and decided to show us the Advent message. And me and my family, including my uncle and my dad, they decided to go learn about what this message was, and they were eager to learn and to know what this seventh day meant and what the three angels' message were. And so when we learned about the truth, our whole family decided to tell everybody we know, and our whole family, including my uncles and their 8 other siblings, decided to convert to Adventism. And hearing that we were going to come to America, I couldn't imagine my life being any different because back then that's what all I had, you know. I was at the lowest point of my life. I was the poorest of the poor. I was there. And when I got to America, I arrived at Denver, Colorado, right at the center of a big city, right when it was snowing, because I've never seen snow before. I was surprised, I was shocked, because when I stepped out of that airport, I just saw giant buildings everywhere. And I saw so many different people. And I finally got to eat after the flight, and I had a sandwich, which I didn't like. And I just saw so much diversity here. But I didn't know what to expect, and I was shocked and I was scared. I didn't know, I've never seen this many cars. I'd never seen this many people packed in one place. And I guess you can say I was overwhelmed. So my family in Denver, we were looking for an Adventist church. We did find a Korean church, but we couldn't find a Korean church. And so it was difficult for us because our family was the only family we knew there who were Adventists, who were Korean. And so it was cold, and we just stayed home every Sabbath to worship. Although my father did have a job, he couldn't keep it long because they made him work on the Sabbath and he wouldn't go, and he refused to go. So from that day, my dad decided, I've got to move. I got to find a place where I can worship the Lord on the Sabbath. And so we looked and looked. We moved to Houston, we moved to Port Lavaca, and we just couldn't find a place and find a job where my dad could not work on the Sabbath. And so finally, when we moved to Amarillo, we finally found a job there that let my dad have Sabbath off. Moving from place to place, I was lonely. I never got enough time to make friends or just build relationships. But as a child, that was hard for me because I wanted friends. I wanted people I could hang out with, people I could be friends with. And it was hard also because I didn't speak the language. I wasn't able to communicate my feelings to everybody. And in typical Asian household, I wasn't able to express my feelings either. So it made me really lonely. But we learned that there was another family who were also Korean Adventists. And so we sought them out and we said, hey, come and worship with us. You know, come worship the Lord with us. And we knew that they weren't worshiping on Sabbath because they didn't have anybody and they didn't want to worship by themselves. So we called them and we just worshiped with the 2 families that we had there. And we also learned that another family moved in. And when we heard that, we were happy and we called them in also. And by that time, it was amazing. We had, around 10, 20 people there already worshiping the Lord at just my little house. And we were worshiping there every Sabbath. And we started doing activities there. And other people began to notice, other Karen, because in Amarillo there's around 6,000 Karen people there. And so other Karen started noticing the 20 people who were going around singing and talking about Jesus, talking about the Sabbath. And some people began to convert. And there were Baptists and Buddhists who heard our message and who decided to come to our Bible study and who converted, who baptized because of the ministry that we did there. And 5, 6, 7 years later, we finally had a church. We finally had a place we can all worship. So when I saw that these people were converting, these people were coming to us for this message, I knew that God was working with us. I saw these signs, these little things of God speaking to me through them. And I knew there, and my faith began to grow because I could not deny that Jesus was there. Because when you see God work, you can't deny Him. Seeing those things around me, I was unable to sit still. I began to read the Bible, began to read books about Jesus, and I began to sought out mentors who could show me the way to Jesus. And I was happy because during that time, serving the Lord, I began to feel this burning fire in my heart. And this was when I knew that I was born and meant to serve the Lord, and I was just going to be a servant for God. My dad volunteered his time. Although he worked during the weekdays, during the weekends, he'd visit everybody who was in the church. He was not getting paid, and he was just volunteering and doing service for Jesus. And he was made the leader and the pastor of the church. And as the pastor, I was the pastor's son. And I was expected to know and be able to do everything. And so I decided to learn the guitar, to learn the piano, all the musical instruments. I decided to start perfecting my sermons, beginning to teach Sabbath school, beginning to teach just prophecies and things like that. And so I was involved everywhere. In the youth, in the adults, I was with the mics, with the technology, with editing, with presenting. And so I was just meddling everywhere. And I was just doing ministry everywhere, even to people who I didn't know. When I graduated high school, I knew that I needed money, and I knew that to be able to continue my education, to serve the Lord, I have to find a good school for me. And so I decided to start working, to go to community college. I worked at retail stores, I worked at fast food restaurants, I worked at meat factories, and I worked as an electrician. And I did all those things, but it was still not enough. I needed a little push. That's when I found out about the scholarship at ASAP. And when I learned about that, I was happy because it was just enough, just what I needed. I knew that this was what God, the answer to my prayers. I knew that God sent me this. And so I applied for it, and I got it, and I was happy. And I was able to come here because of that little push that I needed. I'm currently studying here at Southwestern Adventist University, and I'm studying theology. And the reason I'm doing that is because when I graduate, I have this goal of going back where I was born. Because I know how these people feel. I know how they feel lonely. They feel that there's nobody there for them because they're at the bottom. And I sympathize with them. And because of this, I know that I'm one of the only people who are able to minister to them about Jesus. And I can also help them to understand that God is with us. And God, the same way that God brought me here, God can bring them. My name is Edele, and I just want to thank God and thank everybody at ASAP Ministries for helping me to continue my service for the Lord.
I am so inspired by the testimonies of young refugees like Edale. During my time at ASAP Ministries, I have met so many of them who are on fire for the Lord. The Holy Spirit is already using them, but with the right training, they have the potential to do even more. All they need is the opportunity. That's why I'm so excited about ASAP's Refugee Scholarship Fund. Through this fund, ASAP matches the summer earnings of promising young men and women who are active in ministry and working hard to put themselves through school, but they just need a little extra boost. Next Tuesday, December 1, is Giving Tuesday, an international day of giving, and ASAP is raising $50,000 for the Refugee Scholarship Fund. I believe with all my heart that your gifts to this fund will help equip this generation of future pastors, evangelists, Bible workers, and spiritual leaders that God will use to finish the work among the unreached. Will you consider a special gift to the Refugee Scholarship Fund and invite your friends and family to do the same on Giving Tuesday? And most importantly, will you pray for these young men and women as they prepare to enter the world's harvest fields? 1 Peter 4:10 says, "As every man hath received the gift, even so minister the same one to another, as good stewards of the manifold grace of God." This verse brings up a beautiful picture in my mind of God's grace fulfilled as I see you giving and praying for these young people. You'll be enabling them to prepare to serve in the unique way God has called them, reaching the hearts of their own people. Thank you for making this possible. Because Jesus is coming soon, now more than ever, mission matters.